All right, so in the last video, we talked a little bit about polymorphism. We created this method that can accept a vehicle and call the vehicle's accelerate method. And we passed in some cars and trucks to it. So let's do something else. Let's take this vehicle that gets passed in here and try to do let's print out the number of doors that the vehicle has. So I'm going to call vehicle dot get doors. Okay, now this is going to create a problem. We come over here and look at it. Can't find method get doors because get doors is a method of a car class. But if I'm passing in a car, shouldn't I be able to access the number of doors? And the fact of the matter is I can. And I can do that by casting. So I can take my vehicle and I can cast it, which is something we've probably done with more primitive types. You've probably done that in the past. Using a parentheses here, let's cast vehicle as a car. And I think I need to cast it as a car before I call get doors, so I need another set of parentheses. And that seems to work just fine. So I've cast my vehicle as a car so I can call get doors. Oh, and now I got an exception. It worked just fine for my cars, printed out the number of doors, but when I got to my trucks, can't cast a truck as a car because it's not. Truck doesn't inherit from the car class, inherits from the vehicle class, so it has no get doors method. Well, so we can get a vehicle to act like a car, but we have to be careful when we do casting that we don't accidentally cast something that isn't an instance of that type. So what I can do here is I can do an if statement, and I can look at that vehicle and I can use the instance of operator to see if it's an instance of a car. Let me get my surrounding, and I'll go ahead and tab this in. And so now it will only call get doors if the vehicle that got passed in here, if it's an instance of a car, it'll print the doors. And then casting it should not fail, and this will be okay. And it does. For the trucks, it does not call the get doors method. So instance of is a way to check to see if a particular object inherits or is an object of a certain class. Okay, so checking a vehicle to see if it's an instance of a vehicle would also be true, but I can check a vehicle to see if it's an instance of a car. It will tell me if it's an instance of any of the types in its inheritance chain. So we can do this if we need to cast, if we need to run a method from a car on the things that are cars, we can use instance of to do this. Now, this is sloppy. It's a little bit hard to read. It works. I can cast a vehicle as a car and put this, but it's kind of hard to read. Instance of car has another thing we can do, and I think NetBeans is trying to tell me that we can use instance of here, and let's look at its implementation. And it does something a little different. It says vehicle is an instance of car, and if it is, it assigns it car as a variable, lowercase, and calls car down here. So it automatically casts it for us so that we can reuse this variable down here. That's a little bit easier to read and a better way to write this particular implementation. So keep that in mind when you're writing one. If you use instance of to see if it's of a certain class, you can assign it to a variable that will automatically have that class as its type, so that you don't have to have that kind of annoying, sloppy casting code with the extra parentheses that I had when I was demonstrating it initially. All right, so that's instance of and casting. Casting one object as another.